going to be doing Atcoder Beginner Contest 154, and I'll be explaining my solutions after I finish solving all of the problems. Okay, so AB are all positive. Pairwise this thing. Okay, I'll just sort the array. Now I just check adjacent elements. So the probability is related to okay, so we just find the maximum sum with k elements. Okay. This is digit DP. just write digit dp, I think. Oh wait, the number of integers? Oh, non-zero digits. Okay. Let's try to has to be non-zero. So okay. 19, 14, 15, Wait a second. This might get TLE, I'm not sure. Wait, this got wrong answer. Wait. Did I output correctly? That's probably why. Okay, so f of ij should be this. Is I plus j, choose I think. Yeah, that works, okay. So then and we can use the identity, which I think it's reduces to this. Yeah, okay, so and then I can apply it again, I think. You get this. It's more like R2 plus, okay. subtract. Okay, so this looks good. Yes, I'll code this right now. Did I make a mistake here? How's this a function? I think I didn't do that well this time. Okay, so for problem A, you just input all of the strings and integers, and then if s is equal to u, then you subtract 1 from the count of s, which is a. Otherwise, you subtract 1 from the count of t, which is b. Then you output a and b. Then for b, basically, just find the length of the string, and then you output x that many times. So it's just this. For C, there are many ways to do this, and I think one of the most elementary ways is just to sort the array. And then after you sort the array, if there are any elements which are the same, then they'll become adjacent elements. So you only have to check for adjacent elements. And if there are two adjacent elements which are equal, then I'll just return no, otherwise I'll return yes. And then for this problem, so first you need to calculate the expected value of a single dice in terms of p of I. So there are a total of p of I cases. First case is you get a 1, second case is you get a 2, third case is that you get a 3, and so on until p of I. Then we want to find the expected value of this of the number that you get. So what you do is you add these all together, and then you divide the entire thing by p of I. So the expected value will be sum of I from 1 to p of I. Maybe I should use j instead. So sum of j from 1 to p of I, and all of this divided by p of I. Then we know that the sum of this is, we know that this is equal to you know that the sum of the first n positive integers is equal to this formula here. So this expected value is actually equal to this formula. Then we can simplify this into p of I plus 1 divided by 2. So then we can ignore this constant term for now, since we always choose k dice. So what we'll do is we'll just add k over 2 at the end. And then basically now we want to find the maximum sum of p of I such that all of the I are adjacent to each other. So what we can do is we'll calculate the prefix sums of p, and then we'll loop through all subarrays of length k, and the subarray which ends at index I, a subarray with length of k which ends at index I will have this sum over here, p of I, which is the sum of the first I elements, minus p of I minus k, which is the sum of the first I minus k elements. So this will give us the k elements ending at I. And then after we find the maximum sum, basically we use this formula here to calculate the answer, which is, so you just find answer plus k divided by 2. And what I did wrong was I didn't include this. I forgot to include this, so my answer was not precise enough. Right, so for this problem, notice that k is really small. So k can only be up to 3. So, and you notice that n has at most 100 digits. So this means that an n cubed algorithm will be able to pass, will be able to fit within the time limit. So basically I'll just assume that k is equal to 3, since k equals to 1, k equal to 2 is pretty much the same and it's easier. So just assume that k equals to 3. Then first I iterate over the first non-zero digit, which is I. Then I set it equal to some value, which is d1. I iterate over this value. And then I check that the new number I create will be, I need to check that this new number I create will be within n, so it'll be less than or equal to n. And the way I do that is, let's say n is 100. So if I decide to put my first non-zero digit here, then if it's 0, then it's fine. Wait, actually, no, we can't put 0. So if it's 1, then it's fine because we can still make a number which is less than n. But then if it's 2, then our number will be too big. So that's if we put our first digit at index 0. However, if we put our first non-zero digit at a later index, such as over here, then we can make our digit as big as we want, and the number will still be less than n. So this is why I have this statement here. So if we decide to put the first non-zero digit at the first index, and the digit is greater than the first digit of n here, then this digit won't work, so we just pass. Then I have this less boolean, which basically tells me if the number I'm making is already strictly less than n. So for example, if I put a 1 over here, then even though for now it's less than or equal to n, if we decide to put a 2 in the future, it will be greater than n. So that means that n is not necessarily less. That means our number is not necessarily less than n. However, if I put a digit here, no matter what digit we put over here, our number must still be less than n. So then the less flag will be equal to true. And the way we check this is if we put our first non-zero digit at an index which is not the first one, then that means this will be 0 and it'll be less. Or if we put it at the first index, but then our digit is just smaller than the first digit of n. So yeah, and then we go to our second loop to find the second non-zero digit. And yeah, we also iterate over the value of the second digit. And basically if less is true, that means you can put whatever digit value you want. So basically this if statement is useless. But if less is false, that means we care about which digit we put. So we have to check that the digit is not greater than the corresponding digit in n. And then we calculate the second less in the same way as we basically in the same way as we do earlier. And then we have the third for loop, and we do the same thing. And then yeah, in the end we just add 1 to the answer for each triple that we found. Oh, and by the way, if basically let's say that array looks like this. But let's say that n looks like this. So let's say you decide to put our first digit, non-zero digit here, and it's 1. So less of 1 will be equal to false. And then we put a 0 over here. And less of 1 will still be equal to false. But if we decide that we're not going to put a digit here, and if we put a digit here, if we decide that our second most digit will be to the right of this, so that means that this will be a 0. Then we need to check if this is 0 or not, because if it's greater than 0, then less will be equal to true, because then whatever we put over here, because this 0 is smaller than this digit, then the number we create must be less than n. So that's why you also update the less flag over here and here. Okay, so for f, so I think it's a pretty well-known formula that f of rc is equal to r plus c choose r. So let me just search it up. Number of paths from 0 to So basically, if you don't know this formula, then just Google search what I just searched, how many paths from 0, 0 to mn, and you'll find the proofs for this formula. So anyways, we know what the function f is. Now we want to find, for now let's assume that c1 is equal to c2. So now we need to find r1. Oh, and by the way, this is also equal to this because of an identity. So these two are the same. And so if we ignore c1 and c2, then basically what we want to calculate is this. Then you can use something called the hockey stick identity. And if you don't know what it is, then you can also search it up to find the proof. So basically it just says that you can express the sum of the binomial coefficients of this form in just one binomial coefficient. So that's exactly what we'll use here. So this is equal to plus this all the way to r2 plus c to c. And then we have to minus the prefix of this. Okay, and then using the identity, you can find that the first term here is just r2 plus c plus 1, choose c plus 1. And that the second term is r1 plus c, choose c plus 1. So then, basically now we know if we just consider one column, we know how to find the sum of f for all the rows. And if you've gotten to this point, then actually you don't need to simplify any further because you can just iterate over the column and then use this formula since there are only like 1 million columns. So so it doesn't matter if you try to simplify this as well. But then if you want to simplify this, then it's not hard either. So now we can do the same process. So notice that the above equation, we can, using an identity, we can transform it into this. And then what we want to do is we want to find this expression from C1 to C2. So again, we can just use the identity over here and then do this for both terms, and the final result that we'll end up with should be this expression. And yeah, so now we have a pretty simple formula for the sum of f in this range. And now how do we, and it should be pretty simple to calculate if you know how to compute binomial coefficients efficiently. And basically, and how I chose to implement this is, I use this code for finding the modular inverse of all integers from 1 to 3 times the max of n. And then after I pre-compute the modular inverses, I just find the factorials and inverse factorials for all numbers up to 3 times max n. Then this will allow me to, using the formula for binomial coefficients, this will allow me to calculate each binomial coefficient efficiently. And so this is pretty much it. Yeah, this definitely wasn't my best round. Only because I spent too much time debugging in places that I shouldn't have, and I also had a penalty, which was, it was just a precision thing, which is a bit dumb. So anyways, so if you found this video helpful, you can just like and subscribe because it's free, so why not?